Hey there, beautiful people. Happy Monday. It is a Monday. I haven't done a live on a Monday in forever. Oh my gosh, it's Monday. This summer seems to have me like not even quite equating what time of the day, what day of the week it is. But I am here to talk to you a little bit about small group classes provided by Body Mind Fitness and why they are a huge difference compared to many other places, even where small group classes are provided. So this conversation came up a little bit over the last couple of weeks at the studio as we were gearing up for registration to open for the new classes. So back when I was teaching in a larger chain gym, group fitness classes, there were times during the class where I would see somebody having a hard time with something or they looked very uncomfortable in the movement or the pose that they were doing. And I wanted nothing more to go up to that person and give them an option, something that would make them feel better in that pose, but I wasn't allowed to do it. So the nature of the class was to just do the class, present it visually, and just kind of let people, manage their way through it. Now, I've been there. I've been in that position. In fact, the first few times I took yoga class, I hated it because I couldn't do the poses that were being presented to me successfully, and it made me feel like absolute garbage. It made me not want to go back to yoga classes. So every once in a while, something would draw me back to the mat, and I would try another yoga class in another place, another location. And I would be like, this is going to be the time that I do it and it's going to feel good. And then I'd leave there feeling like crap because once again, I felt like I couldn't do yoga because I wasn't flexible enough. I wasn't able to execute the things that were being presented to me. My very first introduction into yoga, I actually couldn't get away from because we used it as a warm-up in acting classes. And then on top of that, after a certain amount of time, we had to lead the whole class as part of our grade through these yoga poses. And I guess you could say that was my first foray into teaching. I will note that I did not do very good. I don't think I got a very good mark on that at all. But here we are, at a different time, different point in my life. So through this desire to help people more on a one-on-one basis, another thing that wasn't appropriate, I guess, or it wouldn't feel particularly comfortable is calling somebody out in the middle of a class. Nobody wants to be that person. I don't want to be that person. So people would leave and sometimes they'd come back or sometimes they wouldn't. And I really just wanted to help people feel successful, which is sort of where the whole idea behind Body Mind Fitness started. So I was lucky enough to be given space to kind of open my own thing, do my own thing, and go by my own rules. And this was the biggest godsend that was ever given to me, and I am so grateful for that opportunity because it really opened some doors that I didn't know would be there, and it really allowed me the opportunity to help people on a more individual basis. So the classes at Body Mind Fitness have always been very small, and I run the classes based on session to session. So sometimes 6 weeks, sometimes 7 weeks, sometimes 8 weeks, depending on how kind of holidays fall and, my own vacation time. So I tried my best not to create any breaks within the middle, but I enjoy the registration process because there's a waiver that's a little bit intensive, of course. You never have to answer all the questions, but the more information that I have about you, the more that I can create the class to cater to your specific goals and your specific needs. Because let's face it, two of us may have exactly the same goals, but maybe I have a knee injury that the other person who has a similar goal to me doesn't have. So the method of getting towards those goals are going to be vastly different when I can't put any pressure onto my knee because of my injury, which is funny because I am nursing a little bit of an injury right now. It is getting better though. If you were wondering, it is getting better. So this was how Body Mind Fitness evolved. I really didn't know exactly where it was going to go, how I was going to get there when I first opened, but things naturally started coming together. All of the classes at Body Mind Fitness provide a combination of yoga poses with strength built into them. So another thing that came up is at one point I was like, okay, I provide yoga for functional movement. And then that whole concept was really challenged when a physiotherapist said in a podcast that I was listening to, okay, yoga for functional movement, how often do you drop into Warrior 2 in your everyday life? good point. Very good point. So I had to evolve again. So I started following the works of Yoga Detour, Catherine Bruni Young, Trina Altman, Jenny Rawlings, and they were into this kind of yoga where we'd add movement into the poses to make them a little bit more strength-based. I actually started taking these concepts and applying them to my own practices at home because once I had kids, I didn't have time to have a separate strength practice to my yoga practice. I tried really hard, it just wasn't happening, and let's face it, nap time was way too precious for both the children and for I. So I started doing this kind of practice at home, and then as the studio started growing, I was realizing that a lot of the members who were coming to the studio were only coming to these yoga classes once, twice, 3 times a week. So then I thought, okay, if they're only coming once, twice, 3 times, at the time there was a lot of news going around, kind of people talking about their own personal experiences, especially instructors talking about how they had developed injuries because all they were doing was yoga. All they were doing was focusing on the stretching portion of the body, but they weren't focusing on strength training, which could be an issue. If we spend all this time developing mobility, but we don't take the time for strength to create stability within the body for that new mobility that we're developing, things can kind of go a little off. I'll just say, they'll just go a little off. So I started introducing very slowly these concepts that I was learning into my small group classes, and people loved them. Absolutely loved them. The idea of doing the yoga, combining it with the stretch and the strength went over so well that I started migrating all my classes to this format. So the main formats that I use, the main 2 class types that I provide at the studio are mobility and strength and core and pelvic health, and that includes within the prenatal and the mama and babe classes as well. So mama and babe has a little bit more focus on core and pelvic health. Prenatal has a little bit more focus on mobility and strength, with the strength being specific to getting you stronger to build up to birth. And then mobility and strength, core and pelvic health, that is kind of like general everybody, is a little bit more wide open in terms of what we do. So every session I create a skeleton class where we start off with the bare basics. Everyone starts for a minimum of 2 weeks with the very bare bones of that class. And then as the weeks progress, we start adding some challenges on, which you don't have to do. You are given permission to meet your body where it is that particular day. And it's not like you're left on your own to manage those bare bones. I always do a quick introduction into the basic ones and spend a little bit more time in the newer option that is being provided. So that's why I like to keep it 2 weeks minimum of just the bare basic poses. I feel like if it's something that's going to be particularly challenging, I might keep it a little bit longer, but this gives people the confidence to just do what they need to do in order to feel successful. And I am really, really proud of exactly how everything has been going down at the studio. So that's where we're at today. So we've got a new session coming up in September. So we've got Karma Week, which is the first full week of September. And then we've got the small group classes that are starting off the following week. I believe the date is September 10th. So there's both the mobility and strength, the core and pelvic health, mama and babe, prenatal, all of those are in there, and all of those are going to focus on the individuals who are registered for the classes. Now, if you were like me before I went to full-time teaching and your schedule isn't so, steady, I came from waitressing before I went full-time into this, then there is the option for drop-in classes when they're available as well, and those always get released 48 hours before the start of the session, and all the available drop-ins are there. If the class happens to be full, you can add yourself to the wait list, and you will get an email when that class becomes available if somebody, say, calls out or something like that. Even with the drop-ins, the more I get to know you, the more information that you provide to me before you come into the room, the more on the fly even I can kind of create those options for you as well. So whether you've been doing yoga for a super long time, or maybe you've just kind of started out, I guarantee you are going to feel successful within this class. Guaranteed. Just give me a session and I guarantee you are going to start feeling really good within those classes. So with that said, as I mentioned, registration is now open for small group classes. Most of them are 8 weeks, except the Thursday evening class is going to be a 7-week class this coming session, because the last Thursday falls on Halloween, and I want to be with my babes. A lot of the members want to be with their babes or be at the door when the littles start coming to the door all dressed up. So I have made a concession for that as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to send me a message. Other than that, I hope you have an amazing day, and I will be talking to you soon. Thanks so much, and I look forward to hearing from you. Seriously, just reach out. I'm very open. All right, have a great day, everyone. Thanks. Mwah. Bye.